Welcome back. In Episode 1, Jackson's ordered life shattered as ancient dreams and Anaya's presence led him to book a one-way ticket to India. Now, prepare yourself as the veil between past and present thins. What forgotten truths await him? Without delay, let's begin. Jackson's journey across the world began with a single, profound sense of déjà vu. The flight from Los Angeles, a blur of time zones and recycled air, stretched endlessly, but the moment he stepped onto the humid, bustling tarmac of Delhi, something within him shifted. The city was a sensory explosion, a cacophony of blaring horns, the insistent shouts of vendors, the dizzying swirl of a million faces, the pungent aroma of spices mingling with exhaust fumes and damp earth. It should have been overwhelming, utterly foreign to a man who craved quiet order, but it wasn't. Instead, an uncanny familiarity settled over him, like a forgotten garment sliding back into place. It felt, not like arrival, but like returning. Like fragments of himself, long dispersed and hidden, were now swirling in each sound, breathing in each exotic smell, reflected in every passing face. He wasn't discovering a new land, he was rediscovering a part of his own soul. Anaya, his quiet guide and unwitting tether to this past, led him deeper into the heart of India. Their journey took them first to Rishikesh, nestled in the foothills of the Himalayas, where the air hummed with spiritual energy and the sacred Ganges glittered like liquid silver. Here, Jackson, the man of precise routines, found himself sitting cross-legged at dawn, observing monks in their saffron robes, their chants a soothing balm against the unsettling stirrings within him. He meditated at sunrise, the cool mountain air filling his lungs, the first rays of light painting the peaks in hues of rose and gold. But even in this tranquil sanctuary, the vivid, haunting dreams didn't stop. They intensified, pressing in on him with a new, urgent clarity, like uninvited guests at his own consciousness. From Rishikesh, they followed the river's winding path south, to Varanasi, the ancient city of light and death, where the Ganges flowed like time itself, endless, relentless, carrying the prayers of millennia. Here, the spiritual energy was palpable, thick in the air, a constant reminder that life and death were but two sides of the same sacred coin. Jackson watched the cremation ghats, the cycle of life unfolding before his eyes, feeling a strange resonance, a knowing in his bones that defied logical explanation. Still, the fragmented visions, the name Devraj, the burning temple, persisted, nagging at the edges of his sanity. Then, Anaya, with a gentle certainty, brought him to her family's spiritual guide. Her name was quietly revered, a past-life regressionist known throughout the community for her profound wisdom, her piercing yet silent eyes, and a voice that held the calm, still depth of a quiet lake. Her home was an oasis of tranquility, a small, unassuming dwelling tucked away from the city's ceaseless roar. The air within was thick and warm with the intoxicating scent of incense, mingling with the soft, almost imperceptible hum of ancient mantras, a continuous vibrational prayer that seemed to seep into the very stones of the house. It was a place where time felt fluid, where the veil between worlds felt thin. She greeted him with a gaze that seemed to pierce directly into his soul, acknowledging a truth he hadn't yet fully grasped. She said only one thing to Jackson, her voice a calm, deep resonance that settled his racing heart, yet sent a shiver down his spine. What you seek is not ahead. It is behind. A simple sentence, yet it carried the weight of ages, echoing a truth he was now prepared to face. He lay on the mat she indicated, its rough texture a grounding presence beneath him. Eyes closed, he took a deep, deliberate breath, then another, letting the ancient mantras fill his awareness. The room, with its incense and quiet hum, began to fade, dissolving into a gentle mist. The air around him subtly shifted, becoming heavier, denser, yet oddly more breathable, as if he were sinking into something profound and primordial. And as her voice, soft as a feather, yet firm as an anchor, gently guided him back. Back through memory, past the days of his LA loft, past the beach runs and jazz vinyls, past the recent arrival in India, further back, through the fog of childhood, through the unwritten chapters of his ancestry. Back through the veil of time, further still, through centuries, through epics, through the forgotten dust of civilizations, to a place and time his conscious mind could not fathom. He saw fire, not a flicker, but an all-consuming conflagration, a raging, destructive orange and red, vivid and terrifying. He saw a woman, cloaked in moonlight, her form graceful, almost ethereal, dancing with an ancient beauty, her movements telling a story older than words. He saw his own hands, calloused, strong, yet strangely unfamiliar, and they were stained with ash, the ghostly residue of tragedy and loss. He saw Vedika. The name, not spoken, but felt, resonated through his very being, a perfect echo of a love long lost, now found. And then, with a sensation like falling endlessly through the cosmos, a surrender to the inevitable, he fell into darkness. A void, a timeless space of nothingness, complete and profound. Then, a flicker of flame. A tiny spark, then another, growing into a roaring inferno, the heat radiating, real and visceral. The air was no longer cool or humid. It was thick with the rich, aromatic scent of sandalwood, mingled with the metallic tang of smoke. And through it all, carried on an ancient wind, came the distant, melodic, yet mournful sound of temple bells, echoing a spiritual rhythm. Jackson wasn't Jackson anymore. The transformation was complete, utterly seamless. He was barefoot, the cool, rough earth beneath his soles. His skin was darker, tanned by an ancient sun. His arms, no longer an architect's, were stronger, corded with muscle, calloused by years of rigorous training. He was draped in a simple dhoti, the traditional Indian garment, and a heavy, familiar armor, its segments of leather and metal molded to his frame. A burnished bronze chestplate caught the harsh sun, gleaming with the power of protection. And in that moment, he knew his name, not just in thought, not as a whisper in a dream, but in truth, in every fiber of his being, a primal recognition that resonated with his very soul. Devraj. The year was unknowable, lost to the annals of modern history, but the world around him felt intensely, overwhelmingly real. He stood in the fortified capital of a kingdom that no longer existed on any map, a civilization vanished into legend. The sky above was a harsh, unforgiving blue, vast and endless. The magnificent palace behind him was carved from rich red sandstone, its massive walls adorned with intricate carvings of elephants and fierce warriors etched into every pillar, every archway, telling stories of power and devotion. He was not a king, not a ruler. He was a protector, the personal guard of the Rajguru, the kingdom's revered spiritual leader, and the sacred relics of the temple, treasures beyond material value. People bowed when he passed, their heads respectfully lowered, their hands pressed in reverence. Not out of fear, not out of enforced deference, but out of genuine respect and reverence for his unwavering dedication. He was known throughout the kingdom, a legend in his own time. Trusted, feared by enemies, cherished by his people. Loyal to Dharma, the eternal law, his duty absolute. But his life, Devraj knew, wasn't made of steel and oaths alone. It was not solely etched in the cold, unyielding lines of duty and honor. It was made of her. He first saw her on the temple steps, bathed in the stillness of dusk, as the first oil lamps were being lit one by one, their flickering flames casting long, dancing shadows. She was dancing, a living prayer, an exquisite offering of her art to the divine. Her hands moved like poetry in motion, each mudra a verse, each gesture a silent narrative. Her eyes, lined with kohl, deep as ancient wells, spoke stories older than language, carrying the weight and wisdom of generations. Her anklets, adorned with tiny bells, chimed like whispers, a delicate, melodious counterpoint to the sacred quiet of the temple. Vedika, a temple dancer, devoted to the gods, bound by sacred vows, promised to no man, a star placed forever beyond his reach. But when her eyes met his, across the sacred space, across the chasm of their different duties, the rigid rules began to blur, dissolving like mist in the morning sun. A silent spark ignited, defying every boundary. Their first meeting, an eternity ago, was a symphony of silence. A glance that lingered too long, holding a universe of unspoken longing. A heartbeat that pounded too loud in his chest, deafening him to all else. The second came when he found her anklet, fallen from her graceful foot after a performance. He bent to retrieve it, offering it back to her. Their fingers brushed, a fleeting, electric contact that sent shiver down his arm. She smiled, a soft, knowing curve of her lips, but said nothing. Her silence was more eloquent than any words. By the third, the unspoken became undeniable. They met in secret. In the cool, sheltering shadow of the ancient, sprawling banyan trees, their roots like wisdom reaching into the earth, beneath the silent, watchful gaze of the moonlight. There, away from the prying eyes of the world, away from the weight of expectation and duty, they shed their titles. He was not a soldier. She was not a devotee. They were simply souls. Old, infinitely old, bound by threads invisible yet unbreakable. Wild, untamed by the strictures of their era. Magnetic, drawn to each other with a force as fundamental as gravity itself. Their love unfolded like monsoon clouds, slow, heavy, pregnant with unspoken desire, destined to pour forth in a torrent that would reshape their world. He learned the silent, eloquent language of her eyes, reading every unspoken thought, every hidden emotion. She, in turn, learned the profound, comforting weight of his silences, understanding the depths of his unspoken burdens. They shared stolen moments in candlelit corridors, their whispered words lost in the vastness of the palace, their hands brushing in passing, a silent promise. He once, in a reckless act of devotion, carved her name onto the hilt of his most trusted dagger, a symbol of her indelible mark on his warrior's heart. She once danced only for him, in a hidden chamber, tears in her eyes, each graceful movement a testament to a love that could never be shown in daylight, a bittersweet secret. And yet, despite the impossible odds, the insurmountable barriers, they hoped. They dared to dream of a future where their love could exist without shadows. But kingdoms, Devraj knew, are cruel to dreamers. Empires rise and fall on ambition, leaving no room for the fragile blossoms of forbidden love. The war came swiftly, an unforgiving storm on the horizon. A neighboring ruler, consumed by a rapacious hunger for power, sought the sacred relic believed to hold divine blessings, the very essence of their kingdom's prosperity and spiritual might. The temple, once a haven of soothing chants and profound peace, transformed overnight into a formidable fortress under siege, its ancient walls now bristling with weapons, its spiritual hum replaced by the tense silence of preparation for battle. Devraj was torn, a profound, agonizing schism between his unshakable love for Vedika and his sacred, unyielding duty to his kingdom and his gods. The Rajguru, his face etched with ancient wisdom and profound weariness, commanded him, "Protect the relic. It is the soul of our people. Even at the cost of your life, Devraj, protect it." His words were a heavy chain of command, binding Devraj to his sworn oath. Vedika, her eyes wide, brimming with unconcealed fear and raw love, begged him, her voice a desperate plea that tore at his heart, "If they take the relic, let them. It is but stone and gold. Don't leave me, Devraj. Don't leave me." But he was a soldier. He had made a soldier's choice, long before this moment, a vow etched in his very being. Duty, though it promised heartbreak, was his dharma. On the brutal, chaotic night of the invasion, pandemonium reigned. Fire poured through the city, turning familiar streets into fiery rivers of destruction. The enemy, relentless and merciless, breached the temple gates, their triumphant roars echoing through the sacred halls. Devraj, with a small, elite battalion of loyal warriors, fought his way to a hidden chamber deep within the temple, where the relic lay in golden silence, radiating an ancient power. With his men, he sealed the door, sacrificing their retreat for the relic's safety. He took up his sword, its familiar weight a comfort in his trembling hand. He fought like a lion, a force of nature, protecting the sacred, defending his last stand. But Vedika, driven by a desperate, overwhelming need to find him, to be with him in those final moments, ran into the heart of the burning temple. The fire spread faster than the frantic cries of warning, consuming the wooden structures, trapping her. He turned, distracted for a perilous instant by a sudden surge of smoke and the scent of burning silk, just in time to see her vibrant silks vanish into the swirling, suffocating smoke, a fleeting glimpse of crimson and gold. He screamed her name, a primal roar ripped from his very soul, a sound of agony and futility. He fought through the impossible flames, driven by a love that transcended even the duty he cherished. He pushed past falling debris, ignoring the searing pain, his sole focus the woman he knew was trapped within. He fell to his knees at the agonizing sight of her, collapsed by the altar, the sacred flames licking at her dress, her eyes still open, still searching, still reaching for him, filled with a love that defied death. She smiled, a fragile, transcendent smile, even in death, her lips barely moving. And whispered, her last breath a sacred promise, "You'll find me again." Devraj carried her body out of the burning temple, his arms trembling with grief and unimaginable effort. The weight of her lifeless form was heavier than any armor he had ever worn. He laid her beneath the old banyan tree where they first touched hands, where their forbidden love had blossomed under the silent moon. A silent vigil, a final goodbye. Then he returned to the temple. To his duty. He placed the relic on the altar, its golden silence now deafening in the roaring inferno. He kneeled, and, with a warrior's final act of devotion, let the flames take him, embracing the inferno, joining her in the cleansing fire. Jackson gasped. The sound tore from his throat, a ragged, raw expulsion of air. His eyes snapped open. The familiar ceiling of the spiritual guide's room was blurry through a shimmering veil. Tears streamed down his face, hot and relentless, blurring his vision, a torrent of grief and understanding. The room around him was still hazy, swimming through the aftershocks of a lifetime relived. But Anaya was there, her hand gently but firmly holding his, her face wet too, mirroring his sorrow, her eyes reflecting a shared, profound memory. Neither spoke. There was no need for words. Their souls had spoken volumes. They didn't need to. They had remembered everything. In the days that followed, Jackson underwent a profound, irreversible change. The architect of ordered peace was now a man touched by ancient fire. He shed his meticulous routines, his carefully constructed walls. He lit lamps for Devraj, small, flickering tributes to a warrior's sacrifice. He left fresh flowers at the temple for Vedika, remembering her dance, her courage, her enduring love. He fasted, finding clarity in deprivation. He meditated for hours, seeking to integrate the shattered fragments of his past life into his present. He even shaved his head in mourning, a symbolic shedding of his old self, an embrace of a spiritual rebirth. And then, one morning, as the first golden light touched the sacred waters, Anaya joined him in silence. They stood together at the Ganges as the sun rose, its fiery orb mirroring the flames of his dream. In their hands, they held a single diya, a small clay lamp with a flickering flame, a symbol of hope and eternal light. Together, in a moment of profound, wordless communion, they released it into the flowing water, watching its tiny light drift away on the current, a silent offering to their reunited past. They were no longer merely strangers brought together by fate, nor simply new lovers exploring a burgeoning connection. They were, irrevocably, souls reunited. Later, back in the sprawling, vibrant chaos of Los Angeles, their love didn't burn fast and furious like a fleeting, passionate flame, destined to consume itself. No, it glowed, steady, sacred, an enduring ember that warmed them from within, illuminating their path forward. Jackson didn't need answers anymore. He had remembered his truth. The puzzle was complete, the missing pieces restored. The profound familiarity, the haunting dreams, the undeniable pull towards Anaya, it all made sense. He now understood that sometimes, life feels familiar not by mere coincidence, not by chance encounters, but by echo. An echo of a song once sung, a story once lived, a love once shared. He knew, with absolute certainty, that love, real love, the kind that binds souls across dimensions, never dies. It just waits, it endures, until the time is right. Until the conditions align, until the souls are ready to find each other once more. So, if your heart aches for something you cannot quite name, if your dreams carry the faces of people you've never consciously met, if a stranger's eyes hold a recognition that chills you to the bone, listen closely. It may not be your imagination. It may be your soul remembering. Because some stories don't begin in this lifetime. They stretch across the vast tapestry of existence, weaving threads of destiny across the millennia. After that profound regression, Jackson and Anaya, now Jackson and Vedika, now Jackson and Vedika didn't speak of the past constantly. They just held each other, the silent embrace speaking volumes, confirming a bond that defied time. In the days that followed their return from India, they journeyed again to the very ruins of the temple from Jackson's vision, now accessible to them with their newfound clarity. The banyan tree, ancient, venerable, scorched by the echoes of long-ago fire, was still there, its gnarled roots burrowing deep into the earth, eternal witnesses to their love and sacrifice. Jackson traced his fingers over the rough, weathered bark, and a soft, knowing smile spread across his face. A smile of peace, of understanding, of profound gratitude. They offered flowers, their petals delicate against the ancient stone. They lit a diya, its small flame mirroring the light within their rekindled souls. And together, their voices soft, filled with reverence and love, they whispered the names Devraj and Vedika into the gentle winds that swept through the ruins, like a promise fulfilled after lifetimes of longing, a sacred vow finally honored. But this time, they didn't burn in the fire. This time, they walked out of it, hand in hand, back to the living world, to a future they would build together, illuminated by the truth of their past. Weeks later, they returned to Los Angeles. The city still buzzed with the same neon chaos, the same relentless energy, the same sound of waves kissing the shore, indifferent to the cosmic shifts that had occurred. But something inside them had irrevocably changed. Everything had changed. The mundane was now imbued with meaning. Jackson's minimalist studio felt different now, no longer a solitary sanctuary. It resonated with the soft, melodic chime of Vedika's anklets dancing softly on the polished wooden floors as she moved through their shared space. Her morning chants, ancient and soulful, blended seamlessly with his modern jazz melodies, creating a new, harmonious symphony. She painted her intricate mandalas on his sun-drenched rooftop garden, each delicate line a meditation, while he brewed her traditional masala chai, the fragrant steam rising between them. There were no palaces here, no ancient wars, no sworn duties to kings and relics. But love, the love was there, more real, more profound than anything they had ever known. Not the fleeting love that begins with butterflies and often ends in goodbye. But a love that had survived centuries. A love that had remembered, even when their minds forgot, held safe in the deep recesses of their souls. It bloomed again, not with urgency, not with youthful impetuousness, but with a quiet, divine grace. Quiet, certain, eternal. People around them would often remark how familiar they seemed, how comfortable in each other's presence, even though they'd only just met, their modern timelines barely overlapping. Some said fate brought them together. But Jackson and Anaya, no, Devraj and Vedika, they knew better. Fate only reminded them. It was love that waited. Love that whispered across lifetimes. Love that returned. And this time, it chose to stay. Forever. Hope you loved the story of this eternal couple. If their journey touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more such captivating tales. Your support helps us bring more eternal stories to life.